Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome. So the big interview was today, and boy, there's an awful lot to talk about. But before we even begin on a presentation about this interview with this man named Dave Grush, former intelligence community member, before we even begin with the presentation about the actual interview, we have to address something very important. There are UFO bottom-feeding slime balls who today decided what they would do is illegally tap the feed of that interview and just play it on their YouTube channels to get views. And by the way, many people did this, and people were getting thousands and thousands and thousands of viewers by completely and totally illegally rebroadcasting a copyrighted news broadcast that they had absolutely positively no legal rights to broadcast. And this is very, very troubling, because I'm going to talk to you true believers for a moment. And actually, I'm going to be on your side. And I can't believe that I have to do this, but I have to defend Ross Coulthart, Blumenthal, and Kane, right? Because it's their story. And tonight's broadcast of that 1 hour interview did not belong to the bottom feeding UFO slime balls who decided that they would just rebroadcast it and make money from it. They have absolutely no moral, ethical, or legal right to just rebroadcast something that someone else owns. Now, I'm sure that we're going to get a lot of excuses for why people did this, right? I heard, oh, it's free speech. No, it's not. It's completely and totally illegal what just happened today. And I am so goddamn disgusted. I wasn't going to do a show today. I said, you know what? This interview can wait for tomorrow, because I believe that this interview really just helps the entire story fall apart more. And we're going to get into that. But before we do, on this copyright issue, you cannot morally, ethically, or legally just play somebody else's copyright protected, News Nation owns that. You don't have a right to just put it on your channel. Take the feed from wherever, DirecTV or Hulu, or I think it's on multiple streaming outlets. But you do not have the right to take that and rebroadcast it on your own YouTube channel, and you especially don't have the right to monetize something you do not own. That's not your content, dummies. And this brings an issue. This brings forward to me an issue of my complete and total disgust with almost everybody in this so-called UFO community, because we see time and time again that bottom feeding slime balls that are literally willing to just do anything. Now we've reached a level of absolute illegality to make money off of UFOs. Nobody has the right to rebroadcast that. Now, let me be very clear. You do have the right under fair use to play it and do commentary over it, but those laws are very strict. You can play the video for 1 minute, maybe two, then you got to stop it and you have to talk about it. You can't just play an hour-long broadcast that you do not own. You can't do that. First of all, it's against YouTube's terms of service. And I'm telling you right now, every person that did that better get a goddamn strike. Because if we did that here, we would get a strike. If most people did that, they would get a strike. And let's talk about the money being generated by the bottom feeding slime balls. If they're monetizing a video that they do not own the rights to broadcast and broadcasting it anyway, and again, we'll take out anybody who was doing it under fair use, under commentary. That's perfectly allowed. But you can't just take the video and play it on your channel to get lots of views. And you certainly 100% cannot collect super chats while you're illegally rebroadcasting something that you do not own. Now, I mentioned that I'm going to be forced to defend Ross Coulthart and the people at News Nation, who, by the way, I have such little respect for. But I will go this far They own that story. They filmed it. They edited it. Ross did the interview. They filmed it. They edited it. They produced it. They have the right to exclusively air that. And no bottom feeding UFO show host has the right to take that from them and take those thousands and thousands of monetized views away from the people who developed, filmed, produced, and owned the story. Now let's get to the issue of these bottom feeding slime balls making money. And by the way, I don't care what excuses these people give. Go to a lawyer, check for yourself. It is completely and totally illegal to take somebody's copyright protected broadcast, put it on your YouTube channel, and then collect money while you're broadcasting somebody else's copyright protected broadcast. You can't do this. You can't do it on YouTube. You can't do it anywhere. It's completely and totally illegal. It would be like me setting up a movie theater somewhere and just collecting money from people to play copyrighted movies. Same exact thing. You can't do it. It's completely and totally illegal. And I'm sure that these clowns who did this, they're feeling pretty good about themselves. Oh, look at all these viewers we got by doing something completely and totally illegal. But we've seen time and time again that this whole thing is filled with bottom-feeding scumballs, slimeballs, criminals, con artists, scammers, and grifters. So, part of me is not even surprised that this happened. I'm surprised that people are that boldly just coming up with excuses for why they can do something completely and totally illegal to try to make money off of this story that they don't own, they didn't film, they don't develop. Now, of course, we've covered the story, but each time we do, we're bringing you new information. That, I think, is a noble pursuit. But to just replay Ross Coulthart's interview from News Nation, which you don't own the rights to, is completely and totally immoral, unethical, and illegal. And I want to ask those people, especially people that collected super chats while doing that, are you going to give that money to News Nation? Because that's not your money. You stole that money. You literally stole that money from News Nation. Now, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of excuses, but I encourage everybody, go talk to a copyright attorney. They'll tell you that I'm completely and totally right. You cannot broadcast somebody else's property and collect money, especially collect money while you're doing it. Completely and totally 100% illegal. And we have seen time and time again that people in the UFO community do things that most people would be arrested for, and there's no consequences, right? And some of these UFO slimeball show hosts are the same people that are running around harassing people, doxing people, encouraging people to attack people, making fun of disabled people, cancer patients, people's disabilities. Same people, slime balls, complete and total UFO show slime balls. So, and I also have to say that I'm sure some people think it's sour grapes. Well, you didn't think of doing that, Stephen. Of course, I would have done it if it was legal. It's not legal. I'm not legally allowed to do what these people just did. I'm just not allowed to do it. It's completely and totally illegal. So anybody who did that is a fly-by-night person with no ethics, no morality, who's literally willing to break the law to suck some money out of this story. I'm not sour graping here. I'm not jealous. I'm stating facts. These people are UFO bottom-feeding slime balls who never give anything, but they're sure there with their hands out. Take. Let me take money from the UFO community for rebroadcasting this that I have no legal right to broadcast. But we see time and time again, and this is why I'm saying that I'm getting disgusted here, because you get penalized for having morals or ethics in this thing. And you know who makes all the money? The slime balls, the bottom feeding UFO grifters. And let's be very clear. If you illegally broadcast this story and collected money while you were doing it, that's a criminal act. You're a slime ball. And again, I can't believe that I have to defend Ross Coulthart and News Nation. But in this case, I'm going to defend them. Because if somebody took my exclusive interview and got 10,000 or 20,000 views or viewers or whatever, that would be taking my money. They literally took money and viewers, because remember, this is an attention-based economy. So if they took 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 views from News Nation, all that money was stolen from News Nation. And you true believers who were supporting this and even sending some of these UFO bottom-feeding slime balls money, what you're saying is, we don't care if the people that put all the time and energy into developing these stories we love get robbed by these other bottom-feeding slime balls that have no right to take a dime from that. Do you want more stories like this? Well, if we allow people to just completely and totally steal views and therefore money from people who actually do the stories, what we're saying is that Ross, how do I say this? What you're saying is that News Nation has no right to exclusivity on that story. The people who filmed it, did the interview, edited it, hyped it, whatever, regardless of how I feel about the story, they own the story. It's their right to have exclusive broadcasts. And what these UFOs, this is how the UFO community thanks people that are doing things at once. You wanted this story, right? And how did the UFO community thank the people who developed this story? They let a bunch of slimeball, bottom-feeding UFO show hosts or disclosure show hosts steal that from the people who developed it and had the exclusive rights on broadcasting it tonight. We just let the slime balls steal money from the people who brought us the story that we all were so, well, some of us were so intent on watching tonight, right? I am completely and totally disgusted because, you know, you would think that, and I'm sure like karma has its way eventually, but it takes so long, right? And like I said, are the people that collected all those super chats going to give that money to Ross Coulthart? That was his interview. That was his story. Are they going to give that money in super chats that they collected to News Nation? That was their money. That was their story. You have no right to rebroadcast it. And again, to be clear, you're allowed under fair use, but you got to talk through it. And then people get, I sometimes these commentary shows are a double-edged sword because I do them. And then people complain that they can't hear what we're commenting over, but I have to stop it every few minutes and comment to legally be able to do that. You can't just play stuff at 20 minutes at a clip here, right? You can't do that. But this is where we're at, and this is where we find ourselves. And I'm supposed to compete on equal terms. And by the way, all I want is an equal playing field. If other people can do completely and totally illegal shit, and it's not just this, like if people can steal other people's exclusive content and just rebroadcast it on their channel while they're collecting money, why can't I do that? Oh, that's right, because it's illegal. You could get a channel strike, or you could lose your whole channel if they decide it's a serious enough infraction. So all I want is a level playing field. What about people that are selling video game covers as pictures of real aliens and making millions of dollars? Well, I can't do that because we're not going to lie to our audience here. So again, I'm getting the people who do this the right way, the honest way, the ethical and moral way get penalized. And the people who are willing to be slime balls, they just get more and more money. But in the long span of things, you know, I kind of think that karma will have its way. You're not going to get ahead doing that, right? Congratulations. You got a lot of views that you didn't earn, right? And these same people will be right back to being lazy slobs, stealing other people's content, illegally monetizing content that they don't own any rights to, And it's the people you would expect that did this, right? It is what it is. So we'll get into the actual interview next. It appears that many people have more empathy for this David Grush. Because it appeared throughout the interview that he is very sincere in his beliefs. But it also would appear that I believe that Mr. Grush is being manipulated and lied to. And we have some new information about Mr. Grush and about the army person who backed him up as incredibly credible. But before we do that, I think the first point that I'd like to make is this claim that we keep hearing that the intelligence community inspector general found his claims urgent and credible. And during the interview, Ross Coulthart says the inspector general of the intelligence community found your allegations urgent and credible. So there's a deliberate deception going on the part of Ross Coulthart and others selling this story, including Debrief and Leslie Kane and Blumenthal, because they keep hammering that point that the intelligence community inspector general found this man's claims urgent and credible, or this man's allegations urgent and credible. But let's be very clear. To my knowledge, the intelligence community inspector general is not finding his claims of aliens or crash retrievals or exotic materials urgent and credible. He's simply finding his complaints about some kind of reprisals against this man urgent and credible. There has been no statement from the intelligence community inspector general confirming that Mr. Grush's claims of aliens and everything else are urgent and credible. So there is this conflation of those two things that I believe is purposefully occurring. This is how the layers of deception work. Well, he said your complaint about reprisals is urgent and credible, and they would do something, they would investigate it. So we'll just say that they said your allegations are urgent and credible. No, that's a conflation of two completely separate issues. And I guarantee you, we're going to get a statement from the inspector general of the intelligence community, and they're going to straighten out this confabulation of two completely and totally separate things. And did they find his complaints that people were, messing with him urgent and credible? Or did they find his claims of aliens and crash retrievals and, 12 alien spaceships to be urgent and credible? The people that are selling you this story should have to clarify exactly what they mean by these statements, but they won't do that because, of course, friends, there's that old saying, right? If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. This is a complete and total attempt to muddy the waters so that people aren't quite sure what the story is. I have had so many people send me messages saying, "No, Stephen, the inspector general said that his claims are urgent and credible." But what claims? His claims of reprisals against him that he filed the complaint over, or his claims of alien crash retrievals, alien bodies, and everything else? And by the way, I, for one, would love it if he was telling the truth. But there are more red flags that are popping up here. And we really need to break down these claims. So I have multiple sources confirming for me today that David Grush has been hanging around these last couple of years. He has been hanging around, especially in the last year, by the way. David Grush has been hanging around Lou Elizondo, Dr. Eric W. Davis, Dr. Gary P. Nolan, Dr. Kit Green, Jacques Vallée, Travis Taylor, Dr. Colm Kelleher, and as well as meeting with George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. And the other big revelation and I'm still trying to confirm this. So I will put this one in the form of a question. During the initial debrief story, in the story, there's a man named Army Colonel Carl E. Neal, and that man vouches for the credibility of David Grush, says that he is a credible person. They used this Army Colonel Carl E. Neal to sort of vouch for him as being credible. But there's a huge problem with that, or there may be. So I'm going to put this in the form of a question. And the question is for Luis Elizondo, Hal Puthoff, Dr. Gary Nolan, and Tom DeLong, and all the former members of the TTSA. Because do you remember how TTSA got a government contract with the Army to study so-called metamaterials or exotic materials? So my question is, was Army Colonel Carl E. Neal involved in setting that up? Was Army Colonel Carl E. Neal, did he act as a liaison between the Army's Future Command and to the Stars Academy while that deal was being brokered? And again, I'm just asking a question here. But now, and I fully admit that we have to speculate here, what this would mean. First of all, I believe that the sources I have are 100% correct, and that David Grush has been hanging around Lou Elizondo, Dr. Eric W. Davis, Dr. Gary P. Nolan, Dr. Kit Green, Jacques Vallée, Dr. Travis Taylor, Colm Kelleher, Corbell Knapp, and others, possibly including Dr. Stephen Greer. And that sheds an incredible amount of doubt on this story, because what that would mean is that the same group of people who brought us the whole TTSA techno scam, you remember that, where they were going to build a spaceship with a revolutionary power source that would change the world, and they were going to bring us disclosure, and all they really brought us is a terrible television show, probably the worst UFO show I've ever seen. It's terrible. I'd rather watch Ancient Aliens. That's how bad it was. And they brought us a book from Bob Lazar, but they tried to hide that initially, right? So all the same people, right? And the person possibly behind these Eric Davis, behind these Wilson documents, who was looking for poltergeists, right? That guy's real credible. The guy, Eric Davis, literally has diagrams of like Albert Einstein looking at Barney the dinosaur through a wormhole. And his work was called Crackpot Research. Who is feeding David Grush these stories, these so-called revelations of the same thing that whole crowd already was pushing, promoting, and in my view, pretending was real? A lot of people have expressed sympathy for this man, David Grush, because imagine what he's going to feel like if he indeed finds out that all the people feeding him all these stories, maybe even some documents and such, are not on the level. They don't have proof. They don't have evidence. Because if they had proof of these fantastical claims, and remember, it's all the same people that brought us TTSA and all that hype train and the fake Pentagon UFO program that never existed. You know, Lou Elizondo, he's the director of a UFO program in the land of make-believe. And I don't care. Nobody can prove otherwise. Nobody can prove that ever existed. You could show me a letter from a dead senator all you want. It was an unfunded, unsecret, unsanctioned, unofficial program. It was an activity. Lou Elizondo admitted to that. So what's very troubling is that this man's sources may be all the people who I have just mentioned to you. Again, Dr. Eric W. Davis, Dr. Gary P. Nolan. And by the way, we can prove that he had an association with Eric W. Davis by Eric W. Davis's own Facebook posts. We can prove that Dr. Gary P. Nolan had an association with David Grush because of the trip to Canada to talk to Canadian Parliament members. The rest, I'm not so sure of. But given Travis Taylor was the primary scientist, apparently behind one of those UFO government groups, it stands to reason that they know each other and there are direct connections. And by the way, there's another direct connection because Army Colonel Carl E. Neal on his LinkedIn page is directly connected to Hal Puthoff and Hal Puthoff's bullshit, let's just call it bull science company. So, there's like 1 degree of separation between this man, David Grush, and everybody who has been pushing these fake stories for years now. And by the way, none of them have ever provided any smoking gun proof, right? And the things that David Grush is saying about materials, I'm told, came directly from Gary P. Nolan. And some of the materials that David Grush is talking about were those TTSA materials that they bought from Linda Moulton Howe after she sold that fake story of Art's Parts for years, right? And we can review quickly. Linda Moulton Howe hired a scientist to analyze the metals, and the scientist said, these are normal earthly metals. This is nothing extraordinary. And yes, I can reproduce it, and did. She fired that guy and kept hiring science guys until somebody would say that there was something special about Art's Parts or these metal fragments. No one's ever proven that they were alien. In fact, there is substantial and supportive evidence to show that they are not indeed alien. Now, there may be some other materials, though, besides the TTSA Art's Parts that Gary Nolan also analyzed that had strange isotopic ratios. Is that proof of alien life? No. Is that proof of that they're alien materials? No, absolutely, because those materials could still be manufactured on Earth by humans with those same exact isotopic ratios. Is it expensive? Yes, I'm told it's expensive, but it can be done. So that's not any kind of, they have zero smoking gun evidence of any kind of material that was created off-world. Full stop. I'm going to say it one more time. They have zero smoking gun evidence of any alien material that was manufactured, created, or the material came from another star system. They just don't have proof of that. They've got some material with some strange properties. But go talk to, and here's another issue. Gary P. Nolan is an immunologist. He is not qualified to analyze materials, period. Full stop. He's just not qualified to do it. It's not his specialty. And I don't know why some scientists veer off into areas that they have no business in. Go try to talk to a divorce lawyer about your criminal case. They'll tell you, no, people specialize. You need to go to a criminal attorney. Same thing in science. If I walked into an immunologist's office with strange pieces of metal and said, excuse me, I think this might be from aliens. Can you analyze this for me? A moral, ethical, and reputable man, a credible immunologist, would say, I'm sorry, I'm not a material scientist. You need a material scientist to look at this material to get the best scientific analysis possible. But that's not what we get. We get Gary Nolan is suddenly a materials expert. He's not. I'm sorry. He's an immunologist. So again, we have massive ties to the TTSA gang that brought us nothing, but they sure all made a lot of money during that whole period, didn't they? And I think this is what this boils down to. Now, we'll get into the meat of the interview, but I do have to say that this was, I've heard people on Twitter, they're already saying that this is the biggest nothing burger they've ever heard. I won't go that far because I still want to see absolute 100% proof that this man's sources are these people that we believe his sources are. And I do have something else that I'm going to read from a separate source. And one second. This is very important. Um, this source sent me a lengthy message today confirming what another source told me. Much of what we're talking about tonight, that David Grush seems to be connected directly to all of these people who have been, and by the way, let's be clear, Leslie Keene, Blumenthal, and Lou Elizondo, who was the primary source for their New York Times story, completely and totally misrepresented facts to sell the story. Completely and totally, let's just say, massaged the data and left out all the stuff about the werewolves and the poltergeists and the space ghosts and all that, because they wanted to bring legitimacy to the UFO community or to the UFO topic. So these people have provably been caught selling us fake stories before. Ross Coulthart has provably been caught selling a fake story before. Remember, we have conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man. And then they cut to a shot of Michio Kaku. Then he said, oh, they went a little, those promos were a little over the top. Ross Coulthart read the voiceover they gave him for those promos. He's responsible for lying to everyone, saying they had conclusive proof of alien technology in that last completely and totally nothing burger of a story that was equally hyped. This one, they knocked it out of the park on the hype train here, but they've got no meat on the bones here. So this source today told me something that I resonate strongly with. I'm going to read it to you. You can you can determine how you feel. And the source says, in my opinion, David Grush seems to be validating previously held beliefs upheld by the UFO community. He is operating under the guise of reporting fresh, unheard of information that we all assume through wishful thinking is an expose of special access programs, legacy programs, Lockheed, Raytheon Black projects, etc. But it is actually just secondhand claims being regurgitated that were shared with him from members of the Invisible College. And by Invisible College, he means all the people that I mentioned, Lou Elizondo, and Gary Nolan, Eric Davis, and all of these other people. 1 second. All the people who whispered these secrets to Grush aren't engineers or physicists we're unfamiliar with. In other words, all of David Grush's stories, according to this source, are people we're all already familiar with. There's nobody new giving Grush any information. But rather, all the names that we are already all too familiar with, such as Lou Elizondo, Eric Davis, Jacques Vallée, Travis Taylor, Gary Nolan, and others. So this man's sources may be people whose names we've all heard for years already, telling these same stories that they never proved then. So what confidence do we have that these secondhand stories that were, let's just say allegedly for now, told to him by all these people who have sold us lies before with no evidence, no proof ever coming to fruition? What are the odds that this time this is different? And I get it. People want desperately for this guy to be on the level. So apparently, according to this source, the whistleblower is regurgitating information from the Invisible College, aka the Aviary, not a bunch of defense contractors who worked on waived SAPs like we were all hoping. This puts the information he has in a whole new light. Grush is peddling secondhand information. He hasn't seen nor touched a craft, and all the members of that group haven't either. Their knowledge comes from knowing people who were involved with the program, and thus members of the Invisible College are, at best, tangentially related to some programs. So it's secondhand information from people with secondhand information, which is why all the information is generalized statements such as, I've been told the program code names on the bigot list, aerospace companies involved, etc., but we aren't being told the actual code names, nor are we being told any individuals who worked on the program who were on the bigot lists. Likewise, we aren't given the aerospace companies either. And he mentions the Wilson Davis documents. This is being hypothetically peddled by the December 2017 New York Times article. Originally told us, yeah, and then this source just goes over what we know about ATIP being not what we were told. This could very well all be another complete and total UFO circus where all these people are going to come in. Everybody's going to make some money off this. Look, even the bottom feeders are making money off of this, getting thousands of views, rebroadcasting this interview that they have no rights to rebroadcast. And this is all supposed to be okay. This is all shady as hell. This whole thing is shady as hell. The fact that Ross Coulthart and others keep repeating this, what I believe to be a lie, that, or implying that the Inspector General of the intelligence community found his allegations to be, credible and urgent. Which allegations? The allegations that there was some kind of reprisal against him for digging into this stuff? Or did they find his claims of alien crash retrievals and alien bodies? And then we get into the situation with Leslie Kean and Blumenthal either intentionally left out the stuff about the alien bodies, or this guy didn't tell them about the alien bodies, but he told Ross Coulthart about the alien bodies. And there's more and more factual inaccuracies that we're catching them in. The longer this goes, the more we catch them in more what most people, I would call lies, but some people would just be kind and say that's a factual inaccuracy, or that's a misleading statement. The stuff about the Inspector General of the intelligence community finding his claims or allegations urgent and credible is completely and totally misleading, because they're implying that the Inspector General of the intelligence community found his claims of aliens and crash retrievals and bodies urgent and credible. Not so. We don't have that. We don't have evidence of that. So I think that they should start clarifying. And when they do, what we're going to find out is that this whole thing was a carefully constructed narrative to sell you the story of a government insider whistleblower. Does this sound familiar? I think I've seen this movie before, Lou Elizondo. So what we're getting now is Lou Elizondo 2.0. And Brian Bender claims that Lou Elizondo groomed this man for this so-called becoming a whistleblower. He groomed him. Did they perhaps learn what to do, what not to do to sell a story about aliens and UFOs when Elizondo came out? Because it took years, but eventually Elizondo's whole story came crashing down like the house of cards it was built upon. See, when you build your whole story on deception, eventually those deceptions add up. And these people built, all of Lou Elizondo was built on deception. They deceived us from the very beginning of the story. And here we are again, and they're deceiving us from the very beginning of the story. Why didn't they? You mean to tell me that Kane and Blumenthal don't know that this guy knows all of these people? Lou Elizondo, Jeremy Corbell. Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, he met at a Star Trek convention. Nothing says credibility like shopping your alien stories at a Star Trek convention to people who sell alien stories like George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. And by the way, despite what I think about them, apparently they're going to do a show tomorrow night and talk about this guy. They've been avoiding it. And I don't know if they're going to bust this guy as fake, because they got to come up with some excuse or reason why they didn't run with his story, right? But are we really all supposed to believe that Blumenthal and Kane and Ross Coulthart don't know that this man is being fed information allegedly by Lou Elizondo, Gary Nolan, Kit Green, Eric Davis? Or did they know? Did they know that's where he's getting his information? And they had to leave that out, because even a lot of true believers know that all those people are full of it and have never come through with actual, real, or verifiable evidence of their claims. But they sure make huge, fantastical claims. Remember Eric Davis with the Wilson Davis notes and saying that we have crash retrievals of non-human technology. Eric Davis said all this stuff a year or two ago. And he never proved any of it. But we're supposed to believe that somebody's got proof of this now. No, I don't think so. But back to, I'm sorry, I'm getting in the weeds here. Back to the actual interview. This interview was lots of filler, right? They talked about those videos that Lou Elizondo got out of the Pentagon, and they talked about the Blumenthal Kane story like it was still not untrue, right? They pretended. And by the way, people in News Nation are calling Leslie Kane incredibly credible journalist, right? They called Ross Coulthart an award-winning journalist who was on 60 Minutes. They just forgot to tell you that his contract wasn't renewed with 60 Minutes because he got caught selling a 100% completely and totally fake story about the British government and a pedo ring that didn't exist, right? They forgot. They called him a credible award-winning journalist, but they forgot to tell you that he's actually a disgraced journalist from Australia, right? And then they call Leslie Kane a credible journalist, and they forget to tell you that her New York Times article was absolutely, completely, and totally filled with factually inaccurate statements. The whole story was fake. I'm sorry. The story was fake. So we got a lot of filler, and then they seem to really use or reuse the clips that we've already heard, right? Oh, we've got, the pilots, if you come across, all the clips we've already heard were still included in this so-called hour. There was a lead into it. There was a lot of fluff in there. I don't think that we even got 35 minutes of this guy actually being interviewed because they kept jamming other stuff in there that was completely and totally irrelevant. People want to hear this guy be grilled or interviewed. They don't want to hear about Roswell, right? But this is what we get. Awful lot of filler. Oh, an hour interview, right? Oh, and here's another thing we were lied to about. Ross Coulthart is saying, well, I have 7 hours of interviews with this person. But what he didn't tell you is that they did the interview twice. So he's got 2 3-hour interviews that I guess they can cherry pick. And why do you need to interview the guy twice and ask the same questions twice? Unless you are filming this and trying to create the perfect illusion of a whistleblower. I think if this guy was on the level, they would have interviewed him once, not twice, asking the same exact questions. Why didn't they tell us that? That's new information. Why didn't they tell us that this man is pushing completely and totally fake UFO stories that have been debunked as one of the credible cases of a UFO crash? And we'll get into that. Also, this David Grush talked about theoretical physics to explain how they get here, coming from higher dimensional physical space that may be co-located here. And this is all stuff that we've heard everybody else talk about. Michio Kaku and others, Neil deGrasse Tyson and other, Avi Loeb, other science guys have all talked about how do they get here. And they will give you, a theoretical physics explanation. Well, there could be wormholes that they travel through, or they could have developed faster than light travel, and here's how they could do that. But it's all just theoretical. There's no proof of any of this, just theoretical physics that we get in every story or documentary about this stuff from a science guy. And let's be clear, David Grush apparently has a degree in physics. Okay. So he claims that he was briefed on materials that had different isotopic ratios, and also there was he was briefed on extremely strange heavy atomic metal and arrangements that we don't understand, and that some of these materials were a strange mix of elements. Again, nothing in those statements proves conclusively or otherwise, doesn't prove anything, does not prove that we are in possession of material from another intelligent species or from aliens or from another star system. It simply means that somebody's got some strange materials, and he claims he was briefed on them. And I, for one, think it's relevant who briefed him. Was it Eric Davis and Gary Nolan? Because if so, we've got the wackadoo prover maneuver in full effect here. For those unaware, there's something called the wackadoo prover maneuver. That's when you get one wackadoo saying something, and his proof is another wackadoo told me that. And generally, when people employ the wackadoo super duper prover maneuver in this manner, they don't have evidence. It's one wackadoo backing up the claims of another wackadoo. So in this case, we've got David Grush saying that he was briefed on this stuff, and there was isotopic ratios that were really strange. There was heavy atomic metal in arrangements that we don't understand. And there was stuff that had a strange mix of elements. None of that, full stop, is proof of alien materials or materials from other star systems. And remember, I think it's very important that we point out that in order for somebody to prove that, for example, they had a piece of an alien spacecraft, there would have to be massive scientific studies. We'd have to, first of all, prove that it was manufactured and not natural materials like from a meteorite or something, because you can get meteorites that have metals with strange isotopic ratios, and that's because they come from other star systems. Doesn't mean they're from an alien spaceship, though. So you'd have to have proof that that material was manufactured somewhere, made by intelligent hands, or, I don't know, suction cups if they're aliens, or tentacles, who knows, right? But we'd have to prove that this material was manufactured and that it came from another star system. Nobody's proved that. And I don't believe anybody will prove that, sadly. I'd love to believe that we have some sort of crash retrieval material, but unfortunately, everybody who pushes those stories has, there's something strange about this material. Something strange about material doesn't prove it's from an alien spaceship or civilization or intelligent species other than humans. Period. So, and I think the wording is important, because this man said he was briefed. Now, normally, if an intelligence community professional such as him says, I was briefed on something, you assume it's some top secret situation. But the word briefed is thrown around in the UFO community. Corey Good gets briefings. Stephen Greer both gives and gets briefings, right? He briefed this guy. According to Stephen Greer, he mentored this guy and briefed him. Everybody throws around the word briefing. So just because he uses the word briefing doesn't mean that he's sitting somewhere in a top secret situation. He could have got briefed by Eric Davis at Chick-fil-A, just not on Sunday. Like, he literally could have went to McDonald's with Eric Davis and talked about this stuff. And that's his briefing on this strange materials that is proof of alien visitation on Earth. I think that these people who are selling this story are intentionally concealing information. They don't want us to know who briefed him on these materials. By the way, it could also have been that he was briefed in Canada while he was taking meetings with Canadian Canadian Parliament members with Dr. Gary Nolan. So, hey, Ross Coulthart, Leslie Kane, and Blumenthal, who briefed him on these materials? We don't have a right to know who briefed him? He said, David Grush said that these materials were sophisticatedly engineered, and they were certainly not made by humans. And again, what proof do we have? How are you so certain that these were certainly not made by humans? Enlighten me. And I'm sorry if I'm being skeptical, but if this guy's hearing about alien crash retrieval materials from Eric Davis and Gary Nolan, that's the wackadoo super duper prover maneuver right there. It's two wackadoos who's never proven their claims, showing this guy claims, and he's claiming it's true, but the two people who told him about it never proved the claims. So next, this is very suspicious. Next, we got from David Grush, we got Save the World talking points that mirror 100% Dr. Stephen Greer's talking points that he used to fundraise over $1 million about free energy. We've all heard these Stephen Greer talking points. if we could just get access to this UFO technology that the secret government and the shadow people and the men in black are covering up, we can save the world with this propulsion technology and the energy technology. If we just had access to this technology they're covering up, all the third world countries could have free energy and everybody could have free energy. We wouldn't have to work. And the same exact save the world with UFO technology talking points that Dr. Stephen Greer has been using to collect money from stupid people for both. Stephen Greer collected $500,000, to the best of my knowledge and recollection, to create a free energy device using these talking points. Then he collected, I think, $650,000 years later, after he never produced a working free energy device with that $500,000. He collected another, I believe, $650,000 to make a documentary about free energy. So he, using these exact talking points that David Grush used in this interview. Next, we get to my favorite part of the interview. David Grush claims that alien crash retrievals began in 1933 when a bell-shaped UFO was retrieved in Italy in 1933. And David Grush claims that the Vatican was involved and told the USA about the alien crash and then helped the USA, I suppose, procure it. And that the Vatican knows about non-human intelligence. There's one huge problem with this whole story. This 1933 bell-shaped UFO in Italy, it's almost certainly a hoax. Even the original investigator believes that that story is not a true or real story. So here we've got the first real, this was like, this was like whacking this guy in both kneecaps, right? To take him down. Why would the United States government be briefing a highly decorated, very credentialed intelligence officer? Why would they be briefing him about a UFO story that most researchers believe is a complete and total hoax? By the way, the only proof that story were some documents that most, from what I hear, if you look into the documents, they're fabrications. So something is not right that this man is using a story of a 1933 crash retrieval that has been largely discredited as a hoax. Next, Ross Coulthart asked him about the Roswell crash, and he said he was not approved to talk about Roswell. I don't know why, but I find that extremely interesting. You can't talk about something from 1947. I believe that they declassified Project Mogul and all that other stuff. So nothing about Roswell would be classified. Why can he not talk about it? Right? Or, oh, the aliens must be classified, right? And apparently David Grush is using the same talking points that Lou Elizondo uses, that there's no transparency in this government effort to investigate UFOs, and they are only releasing a few things, not the really good stuff, and that many more videos are available. Then David Grush talks about football field sized craft. And there's a separate news story of somebody claiming that somebody saw a football sized craft. This gets into, football field sized craft. How many times have we heard that in the UFO community? Where's the evidence? Where's the proof? Right? Next, Mr. Grush gets into Dr. Stephen Greer's talking points again, that the government is giving out stuff to private corporate elements. And Mr. Grush feels that it's unethical to let private companies look at this alien material and sell it back to the government. What is the evidence that there's private companies looking at alien crash retrieval material and selling it, the secrets of it, back to the government? Now, people have long theorized that that's what the government would do with it to prevent people from FOIAing and finding out what they're working on. You give it to a private contractor, they're exempt from FOIA. Next, we get into Kirkpatrick saying there's no alien technology. Mr. Grush disputes Kirkpatrick's statement that there's no alien technology. Then we get into some really wild stuff, and this David Grush says that he was briefed that non-humans in these craft may have murdered human beings. And Ross Coulthart sort of says, are you really sure about this? And he says that seems to be the case. So he is stating that non-humans have murdered human beings. Then Grush talks about a sort of Cold War between Russia and the former Soviet Union, Russia, China, and the United States over these alien technologies. Next, Ross Coulthart asks if there's agreements between non-human intelligences and the American government. And he says, I'd like to know that myself, but he seems to imply that it's true. Then we get the same talking points that the Russia and the United States could get into a war, or there could be nuclear war over UAP incursions over both of our airspace. Mr. Grush also asserts that he has seen substantial supportive evidence of white-collar crime. Then he was asked if people were being murdered to protect the UFO secret over the years, and he says, yes, that appears to be the case. So, we're getting into the weeds with some pretty incredible claims here. Not only did aliens or non-human intelligences murder Americans or humans, let's just put it that way, but people were also murdered to protect the secrecy. Where does this sound familiar to you? This sounds like one of Stephen Greer's garbage science fiction spy novels. That's what I call Stephen Greer stories. They're science fiction UFO spy novels, right? Ross asks him if he's crazy, and of course, no, he doesn't have any history of mental illness or delusions or whatever. And I found it interesting that Mr. Grush said he resigned on his own accord. But there's some huge questions, like why would he resign just a few years from a big pension payout retirement plan? He didn't do his 20. He would have to do the 20. He didn't do the 20. There's also some problems with his own timeline, because apparently he's making claims like, I was this for 14 years, but there's a lot of overlap and things that don't make sense. This will all need that. He's going to have to show an exact timeline of his so-called career here. And again, everybody's muddying the waters. He says he's not making any of this up. People told him details about this stuff, and it all checked out. We talked about how the credibility of his complaint was found urgent and credible. Ross Coulthart says his allegations were found urgent and credible. I think to conflate or to mislead people into believing that the intelligence community inspector general found his claims of alien crash retrievals and bodies urgent and credible. I don't think that's the case. Next, Mr. Grush and Ross Coulthart says that this is a grave constitutional crisis. And Mr. Grush says there's an army of people who want change. And then he says something strange. First, he says there's an army of people who want change. Then he says tens, if not hundreds, of people want change on this issue. Well, tens of people is not an army, and neither is hundreds. So I thought that was a strange word choice, but okay. He wants non-human intelligence technology to be shared with everyone in the world. David Grush says this, so that everyone in the world can benefit. This, again, is Dr. Stephen Greer talking point. Next, we hear that David Grush is starting a scientific foundation, and he's willing to speak to anyone in Washington, and he will brief elected officials on the classified information he has. So I'm hoping that some people will take him up on that, and eventually we might get to see if all he has is garbage from Gary Nolan, Eric Davis, Kit Green, and all these other people that have been bandying about these same exact stories for years without ever providing evidence. Next, this interview closes with him saying some strange things, right? Like that aliens allowed genocide, war, and famine somehow, and that we may have some sort of treaties with malevolent aliens. Okay, but again, the claims have gotten more fantastic. Have you noticed that since this is leaking? Not leaking. This is finally being broadcasted out. We're getting more and more fantastical stories, right? It started out with, hey, I was an intelligence community member, I started looking into these things, and I was told by some very credible people that we have alien crash retrievals. We even have bodies. I mean, that's fantastical enough. But then you get into the story, and now we've got aliens murdering human beings. Now we've got people being murdered to protect the secrets of those alien bodies and crash retrievals. And by the way, this is not to say that this is not true. The government has done some pretty shady stuff, especially here in the United States. I don't know about your government, but I don't trust mine one bit to not do things like murder people if it's convenient for them to do so. But a lot of people think that the stories are getting more and more grandiose. And also the claim that the first crash retrieval was this 1933 Italy case. And by the way, I'm going to do a whole video just on that 1933 UFO supposed crash retrieval in Italy case, so that we can show you just how fake this story that he's basing a lot of his allegations on, that story is completely and totally fake. So in my opinion, it's completely and totally fake. I'll show you everything about that story, and we'll let our viewers and audience here decide. So what we have here is something very familiar to all of us. We have overhyping, under-delivering, and we all know what comes next, right? The big letdown comes next. I believe that the big letdown will be smoking gun evidence or proof that the people feeding him these stories are people that are already known to all of us. These are not new people that work in special access projects or unacknowledged special access projects or projects we've never heard about. I truly believe that the people feeding him all of this information are people that we already know well. We already have heard these things from for years. And if that is the case, we have to ask ourselves, if those people telling those same stories for literally years, in some cases decades, haven't proven their claims back then, what's different now? Are they finally going to have actual evidence of these things? Or is this going to be, I believe that this is going to be kicking the can. Also troubling is that this man is starting organizations to, I think he claimed that they were going to be nonprofit, but, I'm very apprehensive about the fact that this guy quit his job with the government so that he could be, he said in another interview, he wants to be a thought leader on this topic. Well, that means speaking at UFO conferences. That means maybe teaching courses, or, get a paywall going, and you can get behind my paywall. I'll tell you a little extra, I'll tell you a little more than I said publicly. I think that this guy is going to milk this thing for every dollar he can. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. And by the way, all of the UFO community is going to milk. Do you know how many, even me, we have to be in full transparency. Everybody into UFOs is making money off this story, right? We've got people literally stealing people's broadcasts and collecting super chats while they're stealing people's broadcasts. We've got the debrief doing videos. We've got that paragon of journalistic integrity and virtue, Chrissy Newton from the debrief. Yeah, I thought the whole story was fake, but once she got involved, I thought, oh, maybe this is a true story. No, that girl helps grifters sell fake stories. That's what her history is. That's what that girl does. Next, despite my personal feelings of really, I have to say this, I really like Whitley Strieber as a person. He's doing interviews with Leslie Kean and Blumenthal and making money. Everybody's making money off of this story. And when we think about all of these people, there's got to be hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people. Let's be clear. All those cut and paste media outlets that just copied the story from the debrief, all making money. All these UFO shows, UFO podcasts, UFO Live, Disclosure tomorrow, Disclosure next week, Disclosure soon, True Disclosure. All of these shows are all talking about this for a full-on week. Everybody's making money. and nobody's seen any evidence yet. Does this seem a little strange to anybody else? Right? And the sliminess of all of this. And by the way, tomorrow we're going to be bringing you more information on Dr. Stephen Greer's Big Nothing Burger. Apparently, we have reached the age of the Nothing Burger whistleblowers, right? Ooh, overhype. Let's hype this out the wazoo. Greer has been hyping this big disclosure event as the biggest UFO disclosure event in history and a historic disclosure event. He even wrote that on the podium. Historic disclosure event is written on the goddamn podium that is fake whistleblowers are getting up and telling their fairy tales at. And by the way, some of the slime balls that stole that broadcast and illegally collected super chats while rebroadcasting it and they didn't own it, they're some of the people hyping Greer's so-called historic disclosure event. I am completely and totally disgusted with this entire subject. I want to just check out and say, look, here's what I'll do. Instead of wasting all this time investigating all this garbage, I'll go play video games. And somebody can call me when some goddamn evidence comes our way. But I don't want to hear more stories. I don't want to hear I have credible sources that told me. I don't want to hear something's classified. If you're going to stand there in front of cameras and tell everybody that we have alien crash retrievals and bodies, you better have some goddamn evidence. And nobody does. It's like, let's just play pretend, right? Yeah, let's just all pretend this is true and this is real. And we can live in this delusional fantasy world where disclosures come in any day now. And all of these people making money are making all of these people chase the carrot, and they keep kicking that carrot or kicking the can down the road. No, we're going to get evidence now. This guy's different. This guy's not full of shit. This guy's the real deal. It's not the first time that somebody with big military and intelligence credentials came out with stories of aliens and then proved none of it. This has all happened before, and it's all going to happen again. And this is where we're at, and this is where we find ourselves. So I would like to spend some time here with the live chat, and I'm going to take your comments and your questions, and I want to thank all of you for being here. We may only get a couple hundred live viewers, but we didn't do anything illegal to screw the people who own things out of money. Like, I can't even believe that happened. Like, if those people don't immediately send every dime they made to Ross Coulthart and News Nation, then that shows you that not only are they liars, they're thieves. So congratulations, you people rewarding a literal thief. And I heard these excuses like, no, this is an earth-shaking this is a big deal in the history of humanity. Copyrights don't matter. Yeah, tell it to the judge, dude. Tell it to the judge. And by the way, there better be some goddamn consequences for these people who illegally rebroadcast this interview that they didn't own, had no rights to own. At the very least, you get a hard strike on your channel. And I think that lasts 6 months, right? At the very, very least. And I think that they keep the money that you made. I don't think YouTube is letting you keep those super chats that you collected while you were illegally rebroadcasting something you don't own. But it is what it is. So I want to take a moment to remind you that we, like others, are a viewer-supported show, but we don't do the slime ball stuff like, stealing other people's broadcasts in order to get views. And I think it's incredibly funny that it's the same people who do the clickbait UFO circle jerk or work for the biggest scammers in this thing that also did this rebroadcast thievery tonight, right? It's like the slime ball that you would expect to do it, did it, right? And, I talked about this level playing field. That's all I want. If I can't steal other people's copyrighted broadcasts and collect super chats during it, then nobody should be allowed to do that. And I'm so disgusted by this thing that I'm contacting YouTube for the first time ever, and I want to know from YouTube, why is that person allowed to do that? That's literally illegal. YouTube cannot allow them to do illegal things on their platform. There's going to be some consequences to this situation. So I do want to remind you that there are some people doing this the right way. By the way, there was a discussion afterwards, and I didn't get to see the whole thing because I had to prepare for this show, but Mick West was on a panel with Ross Coulthart and brought it to him. Broke down why the story is likely fake. And Ross was sitting there looking like a deer in headlights, right? Like he just met his match. So kudos to Mick West. I want to thank him for even getting on that panel. But of course, it was like 3 against 1. It was like 3 people hoping, praying, really wanting the story to be true, and Mick West there trying to bring everybody back to actual reality, right? But it is what it is. So there are a handful of people doing the right thing. Stephen Greenstreet's going nuts right now, showing everybody the truth of the last huge, big deception from all these same people that are pushing this Dave Grush guy. And don't be surprised if after some time passes, I'd say give it a year, Lou Elizondo and this guy will be speaking at the same UFO conferences. I guarantee it. I guarantee that's going to happen. And Gary Nolan, too, will be there, and some of these other people, right, that we've all come accustomed to get our UFO fairy tales from. And I got to tell you, I am so disgusted with the despicable slimeball scumbag people involved in this that I don't even want to be here. I don't want to be here. It's like I can count the credible people involved in this thing on one hand. I can count the credible shows that are reporting on these things on one hand. And all of us, and by the way, I would include us in those credible people, those few credible, honest, moral, ethical people who, you know, aren't stealing other people's work and collecting money while they literally collected money while they were running a pirate broadcast of somebody else's shit today. This is the kind of slime balls that I'm supposed to be here with and compete. And it completely and totally disgusts me. And it makes me say, I don't want to be here. This and the lack of total evidence, like how much deeper do I need to really go down the rabbit hole before I've convinced myself that none of these people that make these claims ever come through with the evidence? How many times, you know, it's like Lucy in the ball, right? It's like Peanuts, Charlie Brown. How many times does that football get pulled away from Charlie Brown, but he keeps showing up to kick it, right? That's where we're at. It's absolutely ridiculous. All right. I want to thank Sandra McConnell for a kind and generous $2 Australian and for being a member. We thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. I am going to check in. One moment. I'm going to check in with the super chats. Yeah, and by the way, I'm aware that some people rebroadcast it and did commentary over it. I'm not speaking about those people. So, you know, I thought I was very clear, but I'll reach out to that person who sent me a message. And no, I'm not upset with them. I'm upset with the people who just played it in real time and collected super chats during it. Mick West is saying, okay, so who is contacting the Vatican press office to ask about how they, with the Pope directly involved, helped the U.S. recover a UFO from Italy in 1944? Yeah, there are many things in this interview which can verifiably be verified, right? 1 second. We're going to check in with the rest of the super chats. 1 second. I just want to make sure we didn't miss any while I was ranting. And I've done my very best not to yell and scream today. I got to tell you that I'm pissed. I am so pissed, right? Like, it's just ridiculous that I have to compete with just slime balls that are willing to literally break the law. Like, oh, I'll just do something completely and totally illegal while I'm collecting the money and broadcasting something I have no right to broadcast while I'm collecting money. I just can't believe that this stuff happens. Amazing. And it seems like some people have no consequences. So, yeah. All right, we only missed a couple. So we mentioned Sandra McDonald. I want to thank Larry Love for kind of generous $1.99. Says, don't think he's lying, but he's been lied to. Yeah, that's a good point. I feel very sorry for this guy. I think they manipulated this poor guy, filled his head with these stories, showed him enough stuff that eventually convinced him that this is all real. And now he just destroyed his life over this. He quit his job over this, right? Would he have quit his job if not for these guys manipulating him? Who knows? Thoughts on, and then we want to thank Kinetic Nidally for thoughts on Frank Kimbler's Fragments from Roswell. And we want to thank you for the kind of generous £2. Yeah, I want to thank you. We have a show that I'm going to be doing, if not this week, coming next week, on UFO crash retrievals and alleged fragments from different UFO crashes. And we're going to be going over all of that on that show. So we thank you, Kinetic Nidally, for your kindness, generosity, and support. But if it's all the same to you, I don't want to misspeak, and I don't have my notes and material for that, for those subject matters. And we try to be as accurate as possible. So, yeah. And 1 second here. 1 second. All right, so we're going to take some comments and questions from the live chat. Some people can't see their super chat option. I'm not quite sure why that would be. There's a little money button down there in the 1 second. Let me go over to the video. It's been a while since I've watched from the YouTube side. But I believe right down there where you 1 second. In the middle button is a money button. You'll see it just looks like a dollar sign. You just click that. You might have to sign up one time only. You have to put your card in to YouTube in order to be able to do that. But everybody should be able to send a super chat should they choose to. 1 second. Okay. Does any here remember Big Trouble in Little China? Oh no. Yeah, I didn't name who's doing that because honestly, there's multiple people doing it. They're all wrong to do it. And no matter what excuses people give you for stealing other people's copyrighted work that they have no right to, it's completely and totally illegal to do that. Don't let them tell you it's free speech use unless they were talking over it. I'm fine with commentary and fair use, but I am not fine with somebody just rebroadcasting an hour broadcast that they don't own and collecting money the whole time they're doing it. Ross Coulthart has the right to do that. News Nation has the right to do that. They own, I don't even think Ross Coulthart has the right to do it. News Nation has the right to broadcast that on YouTube and collect money while they're doing it. They own the material. And by the way, whoever did that is completely and totally directly stealing money out of the pockets of people who own the story. It's wrong. It's morally wrong, it's ethically wrong, and it's legally wrong, and it's completely and totally against YouTube terms of service. And these some bitches better get a strike. They all better get a strike for doing that. And they better learn the lesson and not do it again. If they don't get a strike, they're going to steal from somebody else next time there's a big broadcast going on. Mr. Ian says never cross the stream. People restreamed the restream live. Yeah, people took the feed and just played it without commentary. Peeps can send PayPal instead. Yeah, there's instructions for how to send a PayPal in the description of the video. And that reminds me, we're going to take comments and questions from the live chat. So get your comments and questions ready. Please put them in all capital letters. In the meantime, here's Mr. Ian, who will be letting you know how you can support a show who doesn't do illegal, slimy scumbag things, right? I'd appreciate it.
Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truthseekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Now there's a great way to support these broadcasts and show your support. Please be sure and check out our merchandise store. Links to our 2 merchandise online stores are in the links to this video or podcast. The Amazon storefront ships super quickly in the United States, Great Britain, and in many more places. Amazon may not ship to your country or location. If that's the case, hit our second merchandise link in the description and visit our Redbubble storefront. Merchandise from our Redbubble storefront ships worldwide, but may take longer than Amazon. We've got a great deal of super high quality merchandise for you to choose from, including t-shirts, phone cases, sweatshirts, and even pillows. The feedback from our products have been overwhelmingly great. Quality products and fast shipping. People all over the world are buying some merchandise and showing their support of the show. Praise the cash! Praise the cash! Praise the cash! We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, who are buying some merchandise and helping us to continue this journey. Thanks for being here. This is Truthseekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truthseekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truthseekers. Truthseekers.
And we are back. So comments and questions for me, please put them in all capital letters. I have some additional time to share with you, and we'll be doing that. Could Nexstar Media go after them, restitution for them stealing their broadcast? Yeah, I think there may be some consequences. That's going too far. When you just completely and totally steal something that you have no right to do, those big media companies, they don't like it. And you know what I have found is that the bigger the media company, like try playing a Disney clip without getting a copyright claim. You can't. Try playing a CNN clip, Fox News. A lot of these bigger media companies, they go after people. And even if you use it completely and totally in fair use. Now, we've won every claim that was levied against us if we were doing commentary or we played a clip and then talked about it and the clip was less than a minute. People have copyright claimed us, but we have never just broadcast an hour exclusive interview that we don't own. And I love how some of these people were claiming that they had the exclusive on streaming this. You don't own anything. News Nation has the exclusive, not you, right? Lie on your thumbnail multiple times, clickbait everybody. Oh, if you want to see that interview, I'll be streaming it. You can't stream somebody else's interview that you don't own. And by the way, I've already gotten a nasty, nameless, faceless, brand new Twitter account that told me I was just jealous of those people that were helping disclosure by rebroadcasting it. No, I am never jealous of people who get ahead doing slimy things. I grew up in a kind of a rough neighborhood, and there was always, let's just call it a criminal element in my neighborhood. And thank God I did not get, I was an artist and a musician growing up. And so I didn't get in with the wrong crowd of people doing the wrong things, but there was older guys in my neighborhood that were selling drugs or, stealing, robbing stores. A big thing in my neighborhood was store burglaries at night. Like they would break into the local deli and steal all the cigarettes and whatever they could sell quickly. And, these guys all had cars and nice clothes and, gold chains. I was never impressed by those people. You got ahead, right, by being a slime ball. And karma always came for them because a lot of them ended up dead. Shot, killed during a robbery. One guy got shot and killed, or, they end up in prison. So, karma always comes for those people who think that they can get ahead of others. And by the way, there's rules for everybody. These rules are for everybody. If you're stealing somebody else's protected broadcast exclusive rights that they had, you can't complain if you get a huge story and people steal it from you because you stole from other people. So I think it's important to just try our very best to do things the ethical and the moral way here, right? Mark Terada is here and says, for now, I'm putting this story in a nothing burger basket. It's just a new talking head repeating the same talking points from the last 8 decades. I concur with you completely and totally. Who's that buttery voiced narrator? Not Coulthart. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I think we got some PayPal here. I'll have to check in with that as well. And, it should be noted that I do not pay my bills, my house bills and my personal expenses from the show funds. There's a separate account that we use specifically for that. We do not, commingle funds here. So some of these bottom feeding slime balls don't have any other source of income. So they come into the UFO community. They're willing to do anything they have to do, clickbait garbage stories, play the UFO circle jerk game, like let fraudsters on their show and give them the softball interviews so they get the clicks, the views, the super chats. They don't ask hard questions. They're clickbaiting out the wazoo just to get clicks and views. They are lying on their thumbnails, literally lying on their thumbnails every day. Like if you have to lie on your thumbnails every day. Oh, and by the way, some of these same slime balls are promoting Greer's Nothing Burger of an event, right? So at some point, I'm just hopeful that at some point people wake up to the slime ball, scumball side of this and say, we're not going to reward you for lying to us anymore. And some of these show hosts are the same people lying to you over and over and over again. Now they're doing slimy stuff like stealing other people's broadcasts that they have absolutely positively no legal right to broadcast. I couldn't believe that they were doing that. And by the way, you're risking your whole YouTube channel. And if you're some loser with no other income other than your YouTube channel, maybe it's not a good idea to risk your YouTube channel's future by stealing somebody else's exclusive interview and rebroadcasting it, right? Would you believe the aliens if they beam you up and probe your anus? Oh, definitely. If I get a butt probe, I probably, and yeah. But according to Stephen Greer, some of that stuff isn't real. It's what's called stagecraft, and it's government people pretending to be aliens, right? Does Grush have anything else besides the interview, or is this it? I think that's it. I don't think we're ever going to get evidence of any of his claims, but that's not going to stop him from becoming a, quote, thought leader, unquote, in the UFO community, or starting organizations where he wants people to donate money to him. It is what it is. Parsi X says, most welcome. Support for Steven. Got my wackadoo hoodie. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah. And we have this other shirt here. Nothing is impossible. I wore that today just in case Mr. Grush has actually got some evidence, but I don't believe that he actually has any evidence. I think that this whole thing is one big nothing burger of repeated stories that we've all heard before, and the sources are the same people that we have heard before. And it's ridiculous, right? Yeah, and I don't know, one of the reasons that this stealing issue bothers me is because, some people don't deserve to get a big influx of new viewers, especially if you had to do something that's completely and totally against YouTube terms of service and illegal in order to get that big influx of viewers. There's a reason that some people's garbage channels haven't grown in literally years, right? It's because they're liars. They lie on their thumbnails, they lie. But all those new people might not know that you just helped out a complete and total scumbag loser. And by the way, there was other show hosts in there encouraging people to donate. There was other people encouraging people, oh yeah, subscribe to this guy. He's broadcasting this for us. Yeah, no, he's stealing it and broadcasting it illegally. And again, I'm going to hammer this point home. You people, anybody who supports what just happened tonight, you are saying that it's okay for people to steal the clicks, the views, the monetized, and all that super chat, all that money. You're saying it's okay for those people to steal from the people who actually filmed, produced, recorded, broadcast the story. They had the exclusive rights. And we've wasted enough time on that issue. So it is what it is. So comments or questions from me, please put them in all capital letters. Yeah, because True Disclosure, Archaic Revival, keeping us honest here, says because True Disclosure can only come from a Netflix special. Well, that's also another important point. During the interview, he says, Ross Coulthart says to him, you're not getting paid for this interview. And he says, no. But apparently, or allegedly, this person has a documentary deal with somebody. Who does he have a documentary deal with, Ross Coulthart? Great, you didn't pay him for that interview, but you're going to pay him to be in a documentary with you, right? Okay, 1 second. Nothing on routers. Yeah, the stream is not available in European Union. Well, that's unfortunate, but that doesn't give people the right to steal it, right? Maybe they're going to do a special broadcast for the EU and they wanted all the views for themselves. But now they just got screwed out of views by people stealing their exclusive story illegally. One second. Third phase of goons make us twins look bad. Brian Kings with Kings X7 with a kind and generous $10 says, Steve, found my super chat issue. B. Baker. It was my CyberGhost VPN blocking. Anyway, off topic, Stephen. I think Corey Good has a horrible addiction problem, has erratic behavior of a classic addict. You may be correct. A lot of people have said that, but we thank you very much. We thank all of you for the kindness, generosity, and support. It is much, much appreciated. As disgusted as I get with the fact that we have to compete with complete and total slime balls in this thing, right? And you would think we have an 8-year track record here of getting the story right? You would think that the universe would reward us, but you'd be wrong, because these slime balls that are willing to do anything, they get ahead. They get way ahead, right? And it's funny, one of those slime balls used to be well under us here. And I told somebody, a mutual friend, I said, oh, he'll blow right by us because he's such a disgusting, despicable dirtball. He's willing to say and do anything, including platform scumballs like Kerry Cassidy, who uses murderers and people who have problems with children for her sources, and doesn't call them on their BS. So these people we cannot, there's no show like us. There's shows that pretend to be like us and tell you the truth, right? But really, they're in on the grift, right? And if you have to steal somebody else's work constantly to get ahead, these are the same people that never actually contribute anything. I think that we've done a good job so far bringing you all new information, and we had exclusive stories that nobody else had. I don't think it's a coincidence that we put exclusive story on some of our material, and suddenly the slime balls claim they have an exclusive story that they stole from Ross Coulthart. Yeah, you got the exclusive thievery. Yeah, you stole it. You don't have exclusive shit. Nothing. But we thank you all for the kindness, generosity, and support. Thank you for helping us to praise the cash, Brian King.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
And by the way, we want to thank all of you who asked today. We had quite a house full. I think we had like 50 people here for my son's 7th birthday, and we just combined them this year. And my other son is 11, so we have a 7. I have to get used to saying that. I've been saying I have 2 boys, 6 and 10. Now I have to get used to saying 7 and 11. We've got our own 7-Eleven here. It's great. Brian Kings X7 with another one, kind and generous $5 says, the truth hurts, Stephen. Pocketbook included. Karma and patience will reward you in time, brother. I believe that. And thank you, Brian Kings X7. It's nice to see somebody supporting and agreeing with me. I knew that this was going to be a tough slog. Oh, and by the way, we have something to check in on that Spooky reminded me about. After this show, I think, let me look at what the counter says right now. After this show, yep, we should hit it. After this show here, I'm going to share this with all of you. This is a big moment for our show and for our channel. 1 second. Oh, yeah, here. After this show, we should hit 1 million views. And we did that without lying to our audience. We did that without hooking up with hoaxer, scammer criminals. We did that without doing illegal things like stealing somebody else's exclusive broadcast because we're dirtballs and can't come up with our own stories. We have broken many, many stories in our show's few year history here. And we have done things ethically and morally wherever possible. And certainly we've never done anything illegal, like stolen other people's exclusive worldwide rights broadcasts and collected super chats the whole time. So it took longer than I thought, but we will pass the threshold of 1 million views. And we should do that in the next day. So we thank all of you because I think that is a tremendous achievement. 1 million views. And most of those million views are monetized. And if I tell you how much money I made from YouTube ads, I'm going to have to add it up. You would laugh. It's a lot less than people think. And by the way, YouTube just did something else, which is cutting the YouTube ad revenue for content creators in half again. And remember that they just did that a few years ago. They cut all the YouTube ad revenue in half for most content creators, or something akin to half. And now they're doing it again. So, you know, and now they're doing something where they want me to promote my videos. So they want me to pay so that they push my videos to more people. So essentially, they want content creators here on YouTube to pay rent, you know, to pay them to promote the videos that we put here, instead of the way that it used to be where they would push them out to plenty of people, right? Victor Caliero is here. And Victor, I think I messaged you or said something in the Discord. I wanted to get a copy of that Area 51 security guard interview without the my commentary over it. In 2019, the Inspector General made a news release stating that for urgent complaints, they will accept whistleblowers with secondhand knowledge. Yeah, I mean, okay, but I don't think I don't think that this man has credible whistleblower knowledge. But I guess, yeah, and we're getting congratulated on 1 million views. Thank you all. We appreciate every one of you clicking on these videos. Helped us to get there. So it's something that we can all celebrate it together. Tried it again. The site says this site is currently unavailable to visitors from the European Economic Area while we work to ensure your data is protected in accordance with applicable EU laws. Yeah, but here's the thing, Gary. Gary Coleman is in my audience. That's funny. Content creators have the right to say, I don't want this to play in the European Union. They have the right to say, I don't want this to play in Australia. They have the right to do that. And other people don't have the right to steal those rights away from you. And that is exactly what happened. I believe that they are going to hit the other markets. They wanted to hit the US market first, and then they will hit the European markets, Australia, other English speaking, who knows? But it's their right to make those decisions, and nobody has the right to just steal their content. And the fact that somebody sat and collects super chat donations while they were illegally rebroadcasting somebody else's show, that is beyond the pale despicable. And we'll leave it at that. You know, I'm sorry that they didn't want you guys to see it yet. Who knows what they were doing? Operation Shutdown is here to congratulate us. Thank you. And Brian Kings X7 here to congratulate us on the 1 million views. Yeah, interesting, right? Almost 6 a.m. here. I'm back at work at 8 a.m. after a year out. Great show as always. Good to hear that. Humans Awaken Wolf and longtime show supporter. I hope you're enjoying going back to work. Yeah, and I'm trying to remain positive here because we've got good things going, and we get good views, not doing slimy, despicable stuff, right? And that has to count for something. I don't care if somebody gets more views than me by cheating and literally doing illegal stuff, lying in their thumbnails, lying constantly to their audience. I don't care. You know, you didn't win. It's like somebody, you know, bragging that they won a marathon when they got in somebody's car for half the marathon, that they beat the other runners. Do you know what I mean? Like, you cheated like hell to do that. That's not worthy of respect. That's worthy of pity and feeling sorry that somebody's such a slimeball, greedy bastard that they need to steal somebody else's hard work. And despite what I think of News Nation and Ross Coulthart, it's hard work putting together an hour interview with somebody, filming it, editing it, all that stuff, right? Yeah, they clickbait. Yeah, well, we try our very best not to do that. Plan B says, I pity the pool. Mr. Drummond's going to be angry. I grew up watching Different Strokes and what is that other one? The Facts of Life. I don't know why, but my dad watched both of them. And so whatever my dad put on the TV is what we watched, right? Remember that episode with the bike shop with Arnold and that was a terrible one, right? How goes cutting back on the nicotine? I've been feeling bad. Yeah, I'm doing terrible. Actually, here, I've got a bunch of vapes. Look at this one. Real manly, right? Well, I kind of like it. They color code them. So this is some kind of strawberry milkshake vape. And I'm slowly getting used to them. I'm hopeful that I'm going to quit the cigarettes soon. But I keep buying vapes, and then I vape for a little while, and then I go back to the cigarettes. It's just, I feel like I could vape for a half hour and I would still want the cigarettes, you know? And so we had quite a party here today with like our entire family and extended family, and we had Elmo. It was a good day. And I hate that I almost let these despicable people ruin what was a great day for me. You know, like we had our two boys here, everybody, all my wife's brothers and sisters all brought their children. We had Elmo here. We had pizza and hot dogs and sauerkraut and all kinds of goodies. And everybody had a tremendous good time today. And we had a bounce house here. And we had an excellent day. And over the weekend, I had an excellent weekend at the cabin. And I'm so angry. Here, I will show you for those that have asked about the cabin bathroom project. I ran out the clock. I screwed myself this past weekend. The floor needed to be stained. And I stained it once, but I put a real light coat on it, I think. I think this is what happened. So the first coat, it needed two coats, but the first coat, light coat. So light. By the way, it's the same stain color that's on these walls. So the first coat was so light that 6 or 7 hours later, the floor was dry and ready for the second coat. And instead of going to bed, I thought, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, I think. I thought, I'll stain it and then I'll go to bed. So 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I put the second coat of stain on there on the floor. But apparently I put way too much stain on the floor, because the next day at 5 o'clock at night, you know, like dinner time, it was still tacky and I couldn't walk on it to finish the rest of the work that needed to be completed, which was the trim and stuff like this and hanging things. We've got shelves now. We got some paintings. We've got a towel rack with a bear on it. This cabin bathroom is going to be finished. It would have been finished this weekend if not for the drying issue. And by the way, the floor looks just like these walls here. And that's actually what usually people will call paper bag flooring. That's what it is. It's basically, people use paper bags, but most people that do this use butcher block paper, these big rolls of brown paper. And you just bunch up that paper and you put it in buckets that's half water and half glue. And then you spread it out on the walls and even it out. You let it dry and then you stain and varnish it. It's incredibly durable. It lasts forever. And if the the wall gets dinged up or beat up, you just stain and varnish it again, and it'll be good for another few years. So slowly but surely, this cabin project is almost done. And you can see in the corner here this. So next week, I just have to polyurethane the floor, and I have to put a shower curtain in and hang a few more things. Little bit of odds and ends. So for those that have asked, next week for sure, maybe I shouldn't say next week for sure, because every week I think I'm going to finish that thing and I don't. But I think I will. Especially this weekend, I'm going to have an extra day at the cabin. I'm leaving on Thursday, coming back on Sunday, I think. So far, that's the plan. So I have an extra day, but I also have to clean the cabin and get rid of all the tools because my wife and children will be there. And yeah, I got to finish that bathroom because it's getting in the way of everything else. Oh, there you go. Mark Tarana says, I'm currently clear coating a pine cupboard I built. Good for you. Yeah. Humans, it's so nice you're afraid to take a dump in it. Yeah. Patty, it really did come out beautiful. And I've got these shelves in the corners of the room so I can put candles. I have backups for everything. It's the apocalypse cabin, Patty Wilhelm. So in that bathroom, each of the shelves in the corner will have a candle, like in a glass thing, like a votive holder or whatever. We'll have a candle on each shelf, an oil lamp, and an electric little lamp that looks like a candle. So with batteries. So in the event of power failures, you can still take a shower, take a dump, shave, do whatever you're going to do in there in full lighting. It'll be wonderful. Brian Kingsack says, awesome, gorgeous, love it. Yeah, it really came out good. But what you have to remember is I'm not a carpenter. So all that custom woodwork, it was the worst project that I've done at the cabin so far, because you got to go up on a ladder. You got to measure where you're putting one board in. Then you got to go down, mark the board, cut the board, go back up, nail it up, and then do it again and again and again. And there's like hundreds of boards in this bathroom. This took so much time, but thank you. And we have Dead Minds Podcast with a kind and generous $5. Says, good. Keep up the good work, Steve. The truth is somewhere. Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. Thank you for helping us to praise the cash. And we want to thank all of our kind and generous benefactors, including you Patreon supporters and you channel members. Thank you for kindness, generosity, and support. And thank you, Dead Minds Podcast, and all our super chatters tonight for helping us to praise the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your generosity. Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, so you can't have enough TP. I have a shelf that goes on the side of the sink, and it holds like 12 rolls of toilet paper. I'm going to fill that bitch up. I'm going to fill that up. And then there's a cabinet too. So we'll have plenty of toilet paper. There's a store called Dollar General. I don't know if you guys have those in foreign countries, but it's kind of like a dollar store, but slightly better. And they have everything. And it's a great place to go because it's right near the cabin. And, you know, like if you forget the mustard for the hot dogs, you just go over there. If you need a bag of ice or you need candles or lighter fluid, charcoal, any toilet paper, paper cups, anything I need for the cabin, I just go over there and get it. And don't worry, I'll stock up. Yeah. Yeah. Did I have to put in a sand mound? No, because we use what's called a sawdust toilet or a composting toilet. I'm going to do a whole show on the composting toilet. People come in that bathroom, including my neighbors, friends, whatever. They come to visit, and they expect that the bathroom is going to smell like an outhouse, and it never smells. It's got a separator, and 1 and 2 get separated, and then you put pine shavings in it, and It doesn't stink, believe it or not. Eventually, we will get a well and a septic, but that's about, I don't know, $50,000 or $60,000. So for now, we have a composting toilet, which isn't great, but it beats what we did do first. When I first built the cabin, we didn't have the composting toilet. We used the toilet in a little tiny camping trailer, like that slept two and has this little tiny bathroom in it. But then you got to empty the pooper tank, and that is gross, right? You remember that National Lampoon's Vacation, Christmas Vacation or whatever, the crapper's full. That's what you got to do. And it is the grossest job ever. So now that we have a composting toilet, I mean, it's not a great job to empty that thing, but it's so much better than the alternative, which is a gray tank or a black tank that you have to constantly empty. And those things fill up fast with a bunch of people using them, you know? Fill that bee up. Yeah. Piney fresh. Yeah, it smells like it doesn't actually, you know, Patty, you know when it's time to empty the composting toilet, because you won't get what smells like sewage in there, but you'll get this weird sort of like sour smell. And that's when the thing starts really filling up, the composting tank starts really filling up. And then you just take that out, you throw it in the compost bin, and it turns into dirt. Now, some people actually use that on vegetables they grow. I think that's gross. We use it in flower beds, but not in anything we eat, you know. I just use kitty litter. Yeah, well, maybe that works too, right? Just get a kitty box. But the cabin has electricity and internet now. So, you know, the only thing that the cabin doesn't have is a flushing toilet. And I'm okay with it, because the alternative is a tank in a camper that you have to constantly take down the road and empty. We have something for that near the cabin, but it's a hike. And or an outhouse. And the outhouses are gross. It's just like a porta potty. You ever been in a porta potty? It's gross. These composting toilets, they don't stink at all, right? Eat like this gorilla and your stuff won't stink. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So what can I say? We have done our due diligence for today. I wasn't going to work today. I thought I'll just do this tomorrow, right? Because honestly, I think that this whistleblower is a nothing burger. I think it is a propped up, fake manufactured story. And I also want to say, if this story never has evidence to it, and we never get the smoking gun conclusive proof evidence of it, then none of the people involved in this story should ever be welcome or allowed anywhere near making money in the UFO world ever again. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. These same people just deceived all of us with this TTSA story a few years ago, made millions of dollars, TV show deals, book deals, no evidence. Now, it would appear that allegedly all those same people just prop this guy up and he's got no evidence conveniently, right? But I get the true believers want to believe this shit, right? The true believers want to believe it. So if no evidence ever comes of this, they'll have a new guy soon, right? They're already talking, oh, there's other whistleblowers. And by the way, I think tomorrow we're going to be covering the Stephen Greer garbage disclosure festival that costs thousands of dollars or $500 or whatever it costs to attend. And like I said, the same slime balls that are stealing this story from News Nation and illegally rebroadcasting it while collecting money to illegally rebroadcast copyrighted interview they don't own and have no rights to are the same people that are promoting the Greer Garbage Festival. It's a garbage festival. He's got some fake whistleblowers with no evidence. Congratulations. This is a really historic disclosure event. If you count nothing burgers as disclosure events. But we'll break all of that down for you on tomorrow's show. For now, I'm going to hold my comments about that because, Ed Garian, I love how Greer tries to pretend these hearings are legit and they have the eye of the government on it. Yeah, it's all stagecraft. It's all an illusion, a deceptive illusion of an historic disclosure event with whistleblowers. But the whistleblowers are largely garbage peddlers, so with no evidence. So who cares, right? And I get it. Some of them, like this Eric Hecker, okay, you got a picture of you at the North Pole. You don't have proof of your claims of what's going on at the North Pole. None. You know, according to him, his evidence is documents that he downloaded largely from the blackvault.com, but he did have some other document he claimed was a government document that was marked at the top, classified as hell. You got to love it. You know, so it is what it is. And by the way, I guess we're going to do 4 shows this week, which is going against I said our summer schedule is 3 shows, and we're going to do 3 shows, 3 great shows. And, you know, I have to have time for the cabin projects and for vacationing. And look, you know, we worked hard here all winter, all spring. I want to take my children fishing. I want to take my children on kayaks and canoes and rowboats on the lakes all around the cabin. It's a tremendous gift of you know, recreational activities around I picked where the cabin is because there are state parks, there's waterfalls, there's lakes, there's trout streams, there's rivers, there is hiking trails all over the place. There is state game lands to explore. There is the new cabin land to do something with. There is so much to do there. And every year, and I've said this before, listen, this year I said, I'm only going to do 3 shows a week because every year, in the summertime especially, the views just drop. They go down 30 or 40%. And that the reason is everybody else is outside. So why do I want to be sitting in front of a computer when I have a cabin? I want to be with my family at the cabin. I want to be at the campfire, right? I want to have you know, there has to be some balance. But this week, especially considering we're hitting 1 million views this week, we'll do an extra show. But then we're right back to 3 next week, I hope. We'll see. Yes, Patty says lots of natural beauty in that area. Yeah, and a lot of Bigfoot sightings. Maybe I just want to go look for Sasquatch, right? Brian King's X7 says, I like the way you peel away the onion of the grifter stagecraft, Steve. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So we have done our due diligence today. And by the way, we didn't illegally steal somebody else's broadcasts and charge, you know, collect money while we were doing something illegal. Like, I can't even believe these people are this stupid. And we didn't lie to you about and hype this so-called whistleblower with no evidence. Listen, if you're a whistleblower, you've got evidence. And these excuses like, well, I do have evidence, but it's classified and I gave it to Congress, members of Congress. And by the way, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee disputes talking to this man, to the best of my knowledge, and we'll bring more clarity to that issue the next time we cover him, because we're going to be doing some fact checking, right? And the story is either going to stand on its own as truthful and reality, or it's going to come crashing down. I know what I think is going to happen, so stay tuned. So what can I say, friends? We want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight. We had a great attendance tonight, and we didn't do anything illegal to, you know, unfairly get viewers we don't earn or deserve. I think that's why it bothers me, because these people got all these viewers, and they had no right to do that. They had absolutely no right to do that. But it is what it is, and this is where we're at, and this is where we find ourselves. So we'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as usual, friends. And so that's all we got for you. Until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion, reminding you that the truth is out there. It just may piss you off when it is revealed. Please join us tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back. My name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.